So we are entering the fourth generation of full consensus distributed ledger technology. Tell us about those 4 generations and what we're entering into the fourth right now.
Yes, great. Well, so one might say that the first generation started with Bitcoin. The realization that it became possible to have a digital currency, a distributed digital currency that was secure in ways not previously possible, was a really big milestone. That was a big deal, and that represents generation 1. Very quickly, people began to realize that we can store information in this distributed ledger other than just the financial transactions. If Alice pays Bob a coin, that transaction goes into this ledger. But we realized, we could store the fact that Alice has other digital assets, and she might transfer ownership of those other digital assets using the same technology. The realization that there's a general ledger here that can be used as, for storing ownership rights of things other than just bitcoins or cryptocurrency was also an important milestone. So that would be generation number 2. The capability in Bitcoin for representing agreements between parties was rather limited, and so it became necessary to sort of improve upon the technology that makes it possible for Alice to engage in a complex agreement with Bob that specifies under what circumstances the transfer of ownership rights of a digital asset, maybe through the payment of the cryptocurrency, needed to be codified in a more meaningful way than what was possible with the sort of Gen 1 and Gen 2 technologies. That's where Ethereum enters the picture. Ethereum made it possible to create smart contracts in a more robust way than what was previously possible with Bitcoin. And you can use these smart contracts to create complex agreements, derivatives, that govern under what circumstances ownership rights are transferred from one party to the next. Sort of the obvious next step might be that if you have parties that have currency that can be exchanged for ownership of arbitrary other things, and contracts that describe the circumstances in which this transfer of ownership is going to take place, then it becomes desirable to make it easy to match parties with other parties that want to engage in this commerce. And you would like, ideally, to be able to do that in a fair way using the same distributed architecture, the same distributed ledger technology, so that it all happens in one transaction. In other words, we don't want to trust a single third party to fairly match buyers with sellers. We want the platform as a piece of infrastructure to fairly match buyers with sellers in such a way that it results in a market, a distributed market that is provably fair when bids flow into a distributed market. In this case, the actual order of those bids is maintained, and it's not possible for any single party to influence the order that the community as a whole ultimately agrees upon. That, in other words, the market decides the order, and it reflects the actual order that the transactions flowed into the network. This is Gen 4, so fair markets. Gen 1, cryptocurrency. Gen 2, general purpose ledger and storage of digital assets and ownership rights within this ledger. Gen 3, smart contracts that govern the circumstances under which ownership of digital assets and the use of cryptocurrency are used, and those contracts are executed. And then Gen 4 is using the same infrastructure to create marketplaces that match buyers with sellers in a provably fair way. Those are the 4 generations of DLT technology. And of course, Hashgraph is the only technology in the market today that achieves all four. It provides the fourth generation, which is the fairness property.